way you take your chemo. He has had chemo, and some of you might think, well, if you are people of faith, why would he take chemo? Because he prayed. The decision was totally up to him. It's his life, and I wanted him to make that decision, not let him. I felt it was important that he did what he felt was the right thing. And so he prayed a prayer after he got sick, not feeling all that great the first 3 nights. And you can tell them about the prayer you prayed.
This is the chemo prayer. Yeah, they started me off with 150 milligrams a night, 5 nights a week, 2 nights off on weekends. And the first 3 nights I was sick. And had about 2 hours of misery each night. And then the weekend came, and I was glad for a couple of days off. And I went to God, and I got thinking about the snake handling churches. I've never been to one, but I've heard stories about them. And among other things, I've heard that they drink strychnine. The elders in the churches will drink strychnine in a worship service, and then they live to tell about it. So I went to God, and I said, Lord, if the snake handlers can drink strychnine and live to tell about it, I can take chemo without side effects. And my side effects basically stopped. I mean, I felt like I'd eaten too much for the rest of that week and maybe part of the week following. But soon it got to where when it was time to take the chemo, I just took my pills at bedtime, and it was as though I was swallowing a handful of M&Ms and washing them down with a bedtime glass of water. No effect that I could feel. And the doctor got excited, the oncologist, and he says, oh, I can step it up then to not 5 nights a week, but 7 nights a week. Well, at first I thought, well, I don't know if I was bargaining for this. But it turned out not to be a problem. And now I'm in another phase of treatment, and it's only 5 nights every 4th week. And it's 5 consecutive nights, megadose, 400 milligrams. But again, I took my pills last night, and I'm perfectly normal today. There's no sign of any side effects. And I've been on this megadose before, and no side effects whatever. And then meanwhile, they do the blood work to see if the chemo is destroying my liver or my kidneys, because you have to watch out for these things. But no, everything's fine. No side effects. And so again, I have to give God the glory. Because you see, here's this situation where I should have been suffering, and the doctor, or I should say the surgeon, came in and asked me how my head felt. And I said, oh, it feels fine. I said, they had fresh stitches here and bandage. I said, that feels a little bit uncomfortable, but no pain. He says, what do you mean no pain? I said, nothing hurts. And finally, I had to tell him, I've had head colds that gave me more misery than this surgery has given me. So he just had to accept that. It was the fact. And so it's been. I haven't really had any pain. So when I hear of other people who have suffered, all I can say is there's a grace to go through pain, and there's a grace to go without it. And I don't understand why it works one way in one person and another way in another person. And frankly, in my lifetime, with other issues, I've gone through some pain. So God doesn't always take all pain away, but he can take all pain away, and he can take away all side effects. I'm not God. I don't know how he decides how he's going to deal with each person. I don't know.
I don't either. Now your white wall's showing. You want to point out your white wall?
This is the one spot where my hair hadn't started growing back. I was shaving my head for a while because after the radiation, all of this hair right here was not growing. And I looked like the weirdest of men with split personalities. Like this half was one person, that half was another. And Joanne said it would make people nervous. So I said, well, maybe I'll just tell them that I was twins that were surgically joined, and that would make them feel more comfortable. She said, no, that would be worse. But see, that statement on my part is really her fault. The doctors told us after surgery that as the brain recovers from the trauma of brain surgery, sometimes there are personality changes. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, at last. I have repented of my sense of humor 1,000 times, and it still isn't gone. And I thought, At last I can be rid of this thing. I can come back a nice, serious, spiritual-minded person, someone who doesn't say inappropriate things all the time, someone who isn't, I don't know, half man of God and half goof. I don't know if there's such a thing as a goof of God, but if so, I've been one at times. But, you know, here's this bizarre twist in my sense of humor. And to my astonishment, I found out that my wife, poor woman who has to live with me, my son, the poor kid who looks up to me, and my mother, the poor woman who has to live with the horror of having brought me into the world, that all three of them had prayed that my sense of humor would be restored. And I will not share the inappropriate remarks I made soon after my operation, except to say that there were great sighs of relief through my family, because they said, he's back, he's himself again.
Oh, come on, aren't you going to share one?
I can't even remember them, thank goodness.
Okay.
Well, the Bible says we carry this treasure in earthen vessels. And in the early days of my faith, I did my best to make the earthen vessel just look so spiritual. But after enough years had gone by, I learned something. I learned that when the treasure pours out of the earthen vessel, you and I have something extraordinary to give people. And that's the life and the beauty of Jesus. And you know what? We carry this in an earthen vessel, and I don't care what you do to the vessel is still pretty earthen. And so when all is said and done, God's not afraid to be carried around in an earthen vessel. God's not looking at you and your inappropriate sense of humor. God's not looking at you and the fact that you might enjoy being around people more than you enjoy being alone and studying the Bible. Or God's not looking at you and noticing that you'd rather be alone studying the Bible than trying to mix with a group. He's not looking at you and saying, oh, there's something wrong with this guy, something wrong with this woman, I got to do something about this. No, God is prepared to live in your earthen vessel, and he's prepared to be himself in you. So you and I have to learn to be ourselves and not worry about it. And I even have to put up with my own sense of humor.